This 19th century temple cloth has hand-painted episodes of Ramayana with each episode labelled in Telugu characters. It took about 23 meticulous steps and several months to achieve these vibrant colors. And this 17th century textile tells the story of a royal court where we can see activities like drinking, listening to music, romance, and hunting. Traditional Indian textiles hold numerous such hidden tales of culture, mythology, and generations of craftsmanship. But somewhere along the way, these narratives started fading and we forgot the exquisite nature of our textiles. What if we could bring them back, not just as history but as inspiration for today's designs? In this video, I am exploring the fascinating evolution of Kalamkari, the hand-painted storytelling art of Andhra Pradesh, from ancient temple clothes to daily wear, and discover how this art form evolved across centuries, shaped by different regions and global influences, while designing my own textile prints in the storytelling style of Kalamkari. Hi, I'm Nandita, a fashion and textile designer specializing in print design. Over the years working in the industry, I have realized that we know surprisingly little about India's rich textile heritage. So this is the first chapter of a series where I want to discuss and share forgotten or overlooked stories of Indian traditional textiles. There are so many incredible techniques, aesthetics, and narratives that have faded over time, yet I feel like they hold so much potential for today's design world. So my goal with this series is to rediscover the history and evolution, the process, and unique design language of these textiles, and then reimagine those stories or design language as print designs for the modern market. So let's talk about Kalamkari. Kalamkari dates back over 3000 years, around the 8th century AD. Mention of Kalamkari can be found in Mahabharat, where it was known as Chitravastra, which means patterned cloth, and in Andhra Pradesh it was known as Vratapani, which means written text. Back in those days, there were wandering storytellers who would roam from place to place and share stories from Hindu mythologies through word of mouth, and Kalamkari on fabric served as a visual aid in bringing those stories to life. During the Golconda Sultanate, where Persians ruled around the 16th century, and later under the patronage of Mughals, these patterned textiles came to be known as Kalamkari, where kalam is the Persian term for pen and kari means work or craftsmanship. Skilled craftsmen known as kalamkars emerged during that time who could use pens to turn fabrics into masterpieces. Yet, the colonial era ushered in a new chapter for Kalamkari. The British, captivated by its beauty, transformed it into the coveted chintz, sparking a trade frenzy that changed the course of history. The East India Company's control over this trade eventually led to India falling under colonial rule. Chintz derived from the Hindi word cheat, meaning spotted, and chintz was not the only word used in trade to refer to such patterned and colored cloth. Other terms like pintado, calicots, Indians, and calico were also commonly used. The study of the origin of painted and printed textiles in India is particularly difficult, as no specimen of early textiles have survived. But what did survive was the part of the great Indian export. Starting from the mid-11th century, Indian cottons were made to export to the Southeast Asian market. They were first traded by the Arabs in the medieval period, followed by the Portuguese, and then by Dutch and English merchants in exchange for tropical spices. During this time, India was the largest producer of cotton textiles in the world. The most luxurious of these were patterned, which included modern hand-painted, which means freehand drawing with modern and then dyeing in several steps, resist-dyed, which means applying wax to parts where dye is not required, and block-printed textiles where wooden blocks are carved to form repeated designs. Indians had developed sophisticated processes and techniques for printing and painting fabrics that resulted in cloth that had beautifully detailed and brightly colored patterns and with colors that didn't fade. These textiles were originally aesthetically very different from the chintz aesthetic that we know of today. The oldest records we have of these textiles were of temple cloths and landscape compositions of figurative motifs which told stories of Mahabharata and Ramayana. However, later the artisans became like intercultural mediators. They created fabrics that appealed to different markets. The two prominent styles are Srikalahasti style and Masulipatnam style, named after the regions that it originated. Srikalahasti is a pilgrimage center, so the Kalamkari there often revolved around themes from Hindu mythology, depicting gods, goddesses, divine figures, and epic tales like the Ramayana and Mahabharata, which were painted to hang in temples. Thus, the Kalamkaris developed there have a sacred connotation and the art is considered an act of devotion. On the other hand, Masulipatam is a port town that came under the Persian rule and hence the Kalamkari there has strong Persian influences. The Kalamkaris there are based on more secular idealism as the main purpose of their existence was trade with other nations. The artisans from this region often created exotic floral motifs, peacocks, birds, and tree of life in their designs. Because of increasing demands of export, eventually in Masulipatam the columns were replaced by wooden blocks to speed up the production. Then, with the advent of the British in India, Kalamkari found a new audience. The European market was enamored by the beauty of these hand-painted fabrics. National trading companies like the British East India Company and the Dutch East India Company, established in the 1600s, enabled painted cottons from India to be exported to Europe. As a result, Kalamkari saw further transformations to cater to this new demand, giving rise to a fusion of Indian and European aesthetics. Eventually, in the late 17th and 18th century, it became the premier trade textile under the name chintz. Chintz quickly became popular in England and France because it allowed ordinary people to wear colorful and richly patterned fabrics without paying the price of silk. Until then, in Tudor England, linens were being painted with insoluble dyes which could not penetrate the fabric surface. In comparison to these linens, which were not color fast, and compared to expensive woven silks from the French court, the lightweight and colorfully patterned Indian cottons came as revelations to the Europeans. And it was used for everything: clothing, wall coverings, curtains, upholstery, beddings, you name it. And if you have heard the term palampurs, it is nothing but a kalamkari used as bed covers or wall covers, often with a central tree of life motif. The term came from palangposh, the Hindi word for bed cover. These hand-painted textiles flourished during the 17th and 18th centuries. However, socio-cultural restructuring of the Coromandel coast led to the decline of the Hindu temple patronage, and kalamkaris were largely created for Mughal patronage and international trade. The flora and fauna motifs, now popular in chintz, were preferred as a commodity for European trade. To achieve this painted textile with superior dye fastness, the skilled artisans of South India had to follow about 23 meticulous steps. The unbleached cotton fabric is first washed and then bleached. The bleaching is done by soaking the fabric in buffalo dung. It is soaked overnight and washed the next day and dried in sun. Next step is mordanting the cloth in a myrobalan solution. This gives the fabric a creamish yellow color and prevents the spreading of the dye. Bamboo kalam is then used to draw the outline of the painting with kasam or black dye. The dye is made from rusted iron pieces and it reacts with the myrobalan treated cloth to form a permanent black color. Then for the parts with red color, alum mordant is painted on. After drying, the alum is washed in running water. The alum treated fabric is then dipped in boiling red dye made from manjisha root or pobaku leaves. Then it is washed for the colors to emerge. Again, there is a second application of myrobalan and milk process which fixes the dye. Then, yellow areas are painted with myrobalan flowers. Wax is applied to all the areas except the areas that are to be dyed blue. The fabric is boiled in indigo dye to get the blue color, and wax is removed by boiling the fabric in water. And then, there is the final washing. So the secrets of the Indian process for printing these dye-fast colors using fixating mordants were revealed to European manufacturers first around 1760. It brought the start of a new golden era for the French cotton manufacturers. French and British weavers tried to replicate Indian chintz, resulting in textiles largely inspired by kalamkari, such as Toile de Joie by manufacturer Oberkampf-Joy. Weavers in Europe disregarded traditional kalamkari practices and implemented cheaper and faster methods to produce the textiles. Imported cotton was eventually banned in England, France, and Spain to protect their local textile industries, as the vibrant and affordable Indian fabric threatened their established businesses. This led to the mechanization of mills, contributing largely to the Industrial Revolution. Facing an industrialized market and importation bans, India's kalamkari industry was unable to compete with that of Britain and France and declined significantly, threatening the traditional art form and the livelihood of the artisans. In the post-independence era, kalamkari art faced several challenges due to the lack of patronage. However, it was revived by the All India Handicrafts Board, which inaugurated a production-cum-training center at Panagal on the outskirts of Srikalahasti. The Weaver Service Center also promoted and offered commissions and trainings to the artisans. And with a renewed focus on preserving traditional crafts, Kalamkari experienced a revival. Presently, Kalamkari continues to thrive and is predominantly secular in nature and caters to Indian and foreign markets with fabric for apparel and home linens. In 2006, Srikalahasti Kalamkari registered a geographical indication tag, and Machilipatnam Kalamkari did so in 2009. The story of Kalamkari is a testament to the enduring appeal of traditional craftsmanship and the adaptability of art over centuries. Kalamkari has transcended borders and is celebrated as a symbol of India's artistic heritage. Let's take it as a reminder that the beauty of the past can find a place in the present and the future, creating a bridge between generations and cultures. Today we live in a world that's fascinated with jargons like organic, eco-friendly and green fashion, but crafts like Kalamkari were doing all this and more long before these words became trends. Entirely made with natural dyes using flowers, seeds, cow dung and milk as binders, and polished with natural starch, Kalamkari isn't just beautiful, it's safe for the skin, gentle on the earth, and a quiet reminder that sustainability was once second nature. So for my print, I wanted to tell the story of the cosmos. So the different motifs I designed are Hiranyagarbha, which is the golden egg believed as the source of creation or manifested cosmos, the zodiacs, the Prabha Mandala, sun and planets. The Prabha Mandal and the sun with zodiacs are drawn in the style of a central chakram used in Machilipatnam Kalamkari. Let me know what other textile stories you would want me to talk about. If you like this video, do subscribe as I have many other textiles to explore, and let's rediscover the art of storytelling in textiles.